beautiful yet unusual lake located at Australia's Middle Island is actually pink, and it isn't an illusion as it suggests. Being a mystery to scientists until this very day, it is said that the pink color could be a sign of deadly contaminants, or else even unknown life forms. Naturalists consider the possibility that there's something alive in the lake causing the vivid pink color. The water's also deadly for most living creatures too, due to its high salt content similar to that of the Dead Sea. But if that didn't seem risky enough for you, the lake is also said to contain microorganisms which consist of bacteria, viruses, and even fungi.
The Devil's Bridge in Germany is one of the most amazing human wonders of the world, and deserves the title of Satan's Bridge. The Rakotzbruecke Bridge dates from 150 to 1860, and because of the accuracy of this unique construction and the extraordinary beauty of the water below it, the bridge is a complete and perfect circle, a spectacular sight that captures photographers' attention to unique footage. The bridge was called the Devil's Bridge because of its stunning design, which was not even considered by the designer, although the plan was originally to build the bridge to be reflected full circle. But on the other hand, bridge is very serious, its aesthetic benefit far more than its usefulness, where do not try to walk it, only every bold adventurer.
Pamukkale, a heaven on earth. Alongside the ancient city, the white travertines are a miracle of nature, a magical place of extraordinary beauty. There is no other like it. This unique white terraced miracle of nature and golden city of Hierapolis has become a culture and tourism center and has made its way onto the UNESCO list of the world's natural legacies. The interest in Pamukkale has increased over the years, as nowhere else on earth has such beauty and healing waters.
About 42% of the island is Rapa Nui National Park, a World Heritage property established in 1995 to preserve the natural and cultural wonders of this Chilean territory. This Polynesian outpost blossomed in isolation, developing a distinct architectural and artistic culture. Moai, the enormous heads that dot the landscape, are the lasting legacy of this ancient society. The effort to construct these monuments and move them around the island must have been considerable. But no one knows exactly why the Rapa Nui people undertook such a task. The hundreds of Moai standing on Easter Island today were restored by historians, anthropologists, and archaeologists in the 20th century.
Resembling a vast, unending mirror, these are the world's largest salt flats, covering a roughly 4,100 square mile or 10,000 square kilometer area. Once a proper lake in prehistoric times, today the flats are made of a 10 billion ton layer of salt, under which sits between 50 to 70% of the world's lithium reserves. Sparse in terms of vegetation and wildlife, the almost unnaturally level flats are also packed with chemicals like magnesium, potassium, and borax. But, more importantly, they're eerily beautiful.
The Darvaza gas crater in Darvaza, Turkmenistan is also known as the Door to Hell because, well, it looks like it. The crater, also known as the Gates of Hell, is about 709 feet in diameter and the result of a failed attempt by Soviets to capture the gas reserved within. While surveying for the gas pocket, the ground beneath the equipment collapsed, resulting in the initial crater. Soviets, fearing that the gas might poison people in the surrounding area, decided that burning the gas off was the best option, so they lit it on fire. It's been burning ever since it was lit in 1971. While less of a literal gate to a metaphysical hell, it's become a tourist attraction because of its uncanny resemblance to traditional classical illustrations of the fires of hell.
The story of Blood Falls begins around 5 million years ago when East Antarctica was inundated by the sea, forming a salty lake. Some 3 million years later, glaciers began to form and moved over it, isolating the lake and its inhabitants from the rest of the world in a biological time capsule. As the salt water on top slowly froze, it made the remaining water underneath saltier and saltier, so much so that today, even though it's now well below 0 degrees Celsius down there, the water won't freeze. And in addition to being wicked cold and hecka salty, the water's also chock full of iron scraped up by the glacier from the bedrock below. There's almost no free oxygen floating around under the ice, but when the iron-rich water reaches the surface, oxygen in the air turns the iron to rust. And not just a tawny brown rust, but a rich, red, sanguine rust that gives the falls its name.
Why are they here, in the middle of a vast and empty desert? And it's not that the Nazca Lines are hard to see from the ground, they're virtually invisible. It was only when airplane pilots started flying over this part of Peru that anyone had a clue that they existed. From up here, I can see why those first pilots were so shocked by what they discovered. The lines cover more than 125 square miles and form over 1,000 geometric shapes. Enormous rectangles, trapezoids, hundreds of yards wide and thousands of yards long. Then there are razor-straight lines, some stretching as far as 9 miles. Perhaps the most incredible are the biomorphs, over 50 massive drawings of birds, animals, and even humans.
This strange forest was planted in the 1930s, presumably by people who lived nearby. It is made up of 400 trees, which are bent at 90 degrees just above their base, with the curve going back upright after 3 to 9 feet of sideways growth. These trees all point to the north and bend to make a very specific J shape. The tree experts called to examine the trees speculate their strange shape probably started when they were damaged 7 to 10 years after they were planted. There are many different theories about what could have damaged these trees and made them take this shape. One popular theory is that they were damaged by passing tanks during World War II. What do you think? Another origin theory for the strange trees is that a heavy snowstorm arrived not long after the trees were planted. The weight of the snow proved to be too much for the trees and caused them to grow abnormally.
The big archway-like stones are of course the most famous and recognizable at Stonehenge, but what about the numerous other surrounding stones? Well, unlike the larger stones which are thought to have been sourced locally, the 80 smaller surrounding stones, known as bluestones, can actually be traced back to the Preseli Hills, which by the way is around 150 miles away in Wales. Exactly how these 2-ton stones were transported is a little unclear, with one theory suggesting that it had something to do with glacial movements. A more rock-solid theory, however, pardon the pun, suggests that they were brought from Wales via boats or rafts. If that is true though, it still begs the question, why go through the effort to source stones from so far away?